the moment that my colleagues on the Supreme Court elected me Chief Justice. That was, of course, a personal triumph, but in addition, it was the moment that gave birth to an opportunity for me to show leadership. By then, I'd practiced law for 17 years, and I'd been a judge on the appellate courts for over 20 years. And I'd learned a thing or two, and I'd formulated a few opinions about what the weaknesses were in the justice system and what corrections could be made. And so being made Chief Justice gave me the opportunity to try to implement some of that, to provide some leadership. Gave me the opportunity to, for example, form the SOS task force along with the State Bar of Michigan, which this was the brainchild of Michigan State Bar Executive Director Linda Rexer, to provide a site, a website, and self-help centers for people who were unable to afford to avail themselves of the justice system, or if they found themselves enmeshed in it, really could not get the legal help that they needed, and that the Constitution really guarantees them. So this was a great accomplishment. Another thing I was able to do was give a joint address to a joint session of the legislature, in which I was able to encourage legislators to pass new laws, amend old laws to improve the system. And finally, set up what we called the Judicial Selection Task Force to improve the system that we have in Michigan of selecting justices to the Supreme Court. There was on that commission, among others, Wayne Lawgrad and my cohort here in an election to the Wall of Fame, Michael Pitt. And we came out with recommendations that could and should improve the system. I'm hoping someday will be embraced by the legislature and the governor and by the Michigan Supreme Court. I was elected when I was only 25 to the Michigan State Board of Education. And at that time, the Constitution was brand new. Our state Constitution had just gone into effect, and there was much to be determined legally. There were many little interpretations that had to be worked out through the legal process. The Attorney General worked with us, and I became aware of how important the law was, not only to the functioning of government and how it works, but to the whole of our society. I became convinced that the law was at the foundation of our society and the heart of it. I also had a colleague on the board who was a lawyer, and I'd never really been exposed to a lawyer before. And when it came to arguing issues and matters before the board, he was very eloquent and persuasive, and I remember looking at him and thinking, how does he do that? I'd like to be able to do that. So about 3 years into that 12-year term on the board, I decided to stop pursuing a PhD in French language and literature and to apply to law school. Prepare carefully to reach your goals and then go for it. Don't be afraid of failure. It seems to me that some failure is inherent in everything we do. We can learn from failure, and it can paralyze us. So don't be paralyzed. I think the best statement of my advice probably came from Johann Wolfgang von Goethe when he wrote, "Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it."